Hello everybody, welcome back to the stream. Sorry for missing the stream this morning. I had to drive to Pennsylvania, so I'm back from Pennsylvania. And yeah, anyway, so we're just going to be chilling today. I don't want to do anything like too terribly involved. So we're just going to be working on probably altering how some of the items in the game work. I'll go over some of the recent changes that I've made on the master branch. And yeah, probably just, address some of the points of feedback, maybe fix some bugs, rebalance some items, things of that nature. I think it would be cool to take a stab at sort of balancing out the cooldown reduction abilities. I'm having a hard time keeping up with the Discord suggestions actually, but I think it might be, a good idea, like a lot of people are saying, to make the cooldown reduction abilities innate. So CDR is one of those things where it's just so unbelievably powerful and it works in every build. And this is a problem that every game ever made has, right? Where anything that allows you to just do more things quicker is always just going to be the best option no matter what. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to make cooldown reduction a little bit less accessible. We're going to try to make it so that way you either have to work with the item that it's innately on, or, you're going to require some good RNG and some strategic alchemy to get those cooldown reduction things. So yeah, we'll see. I think it would be fun to take a stab at rebalancing that on the stream as well. But anyway, before I get into it, I want to remind everyone that Alchemortis is still available for playtesting, so head on over to the Steam page. It's linked below. You could click the Request Access button. And you could also add it to your wish list. I'd appreciate that. You can also support the game on Patreon, which is still very much appreciated, even though I have a publisher. This funding helps a lot. So if you subscribe at the top tier for at least 1 month, I will send you a key for the full game when the game releases. So this is like a pre-purchase, basically. And I'm going to put your name in the in-game Alchemortis credits. And you can also support my work by purchasing one of my Udemy courses. These will teach you how to build complete games in the Godot engine. This one here is the online co-op multiplayer game course. So this teaches you all the multiplayer functionality in Godot. So yeah, check those things out. But yeah, the number one thing you can do is just download the playtest. It's available for everyone, and let me know what you think. All right. Hello, Clickertail. Welcome. Hello, Celestial General. Welcome back. Good afternoon, Ninja Link. Welcome. Emerson. Hello, hello. Good to see you. Ultra Nedum, welcome. Good to see you. Hello, Budget Jim. Welcome back. Jackie Daytona, welcome, welcome. Time for game dev once again. Sounds like a long drive. I hear your state is forever long after all. Yeah, it's a pretty long drive. It's like a couple hours one way. So, but that's just what, sometimes you got to do those things. It was a nice little trip. Anyway, hello, Monkey Software. Welcome back. All right, so let me go over some of the things that I did. So last night, I reworked how gold works. So somebody literally suggested this in the suggestions channel, but I got a couple of comments from the playtest that gold just didn't feel that useful, and I think there was a couple of reasons for it. One, getting a random item is really not that helpful. You already have many sources of like random items, like with the boosters and whatnot. So that was one thing that was weird. And then also the way that it worked is that the gold would transmute into a different item under the hood before all the abilities were alchemized. And what that meant is that whatever random item you were creating would have its abilities added to the pool. So it would actually add uncertainty to the alchemy. So it just felt bad. It didn't feel very useful. So now what gold does is gold simply just copies the base type of one of your inputs. So this creates a new item of the same type as one random non-reagent item. So if I need to get, or I want to get another skeleton commander, for instance, I throw that in, I get 2 skeleton commanders out. And this is the base type. So the gold is not a copy. The gold doesn't take, actually, I forgot how it works. I think it copies the tier, but it doesn't copy any of the abilities. So it just gives you the item at the same tier, but with the base abilities on it. So if I do add, let's do add item, Wheel of Misfortune, and then we'll give it a tier of 3. So we got the Wheel of Misfortune, which is a new item, brand new shape, cross shape. I already have some gold here. So if I think if I put these two things together, I think I'll get, yeah, I get another Wheel of Misfortune out of it. Okay, so the Wheel of Misfortune is also new. This one, so I mentioned this in the Discord, but I'll just reiterate it here. This one is bleed focused, so it applies a lot of bleed up front, and it heals 3 per 5 bleed applied since last execution. I think I'm going to do more of this stuff. So I might do something similar with the Phylactery, where instead of its damage increasing anytime poison is applied, its damage would increase every time like 5 different applications of poison are applied, because that gives me a lot more control over how powerful it is. And I think it kind of makes sense, right? So it's like heal 3 per 5. So this is a way that I can like express ratios without having floating point numbers, right? Because like no numbers in the game are floating point. Like your health is an integer, every single damage value is an integer, every heal value is an integer. So I can't do like, oh, well, let's heal for 25% of bleed done. Well, if you only apply 2 bleed, that's 0.5. That would just get rounded down to 0. So instead I'm making it more explicit, or I'm going to start making these things more explicit, where it's like, it's going to heal 3 per 5 bleed applied, which means that if you haven't applied 5 bleed since the last execution, you're not going to heal at all, right? So it's like, it gives you very, very concrete, like, dividing points, right? So I'm going to start doing more of that stuff. And then this also has a brand new kind of like ability type, which is that this deals 1 damage 7 times. So this is interesting because this is 7 applications of a damage ability. So that means that anything that scales off of damage abilities will scale off of that 7 times. But also, bleed is procced based on each instance of damage, right? So this Wheel of Fortune is basically just like a bleed procking machine, where it just does 7 damage, or does 1 damage 7 times, but each time it does damage, it procs a bleed stack, right? So I'm going to start doing more stuff like that as well. I was trying to do something similar early on with the giant squid, for example. And the way that I did this is I just had 2 poison 4 times, right? But I think it's actually going to be nicer that this becomes apply 2 poison 4 times, because that becomes a single ability that you could put on something else, right? And also it's just like, it's not, you know, it's not super cluttered and whatnot. So yeah, that's a new ability type. I just called it ability repeater. And all it does is it just takes how many times do I want to repeat as a function, so that a function gets evaluated every time get abilities to execute is called. And then this literally just returns a list with the same ability repeated a number of times. Now there is going to be probably a little bit of a bug here, but oh well, we don't need to worry about it yet. J am a man of fortune, and J must seek my fortune. What? Hello, sweet tea. I don't know what that means. Hello, Snupbill. Thank you for the IDR 10,000. Always good to see you. Welcome back. Good to see you. Hello, Ariane. Welcome. Yummers. Do you meditate, Firebelly? I do not. Mind over matter. Welcome. It's very fitting that somebody named Mind over matter would ask me that question. No, I don't. I don't meditate. One of my coworkers was trying to pitch me on meditation once. They were like, oh, well, you could just like calm your brain down. It's like, I like when my brain is going 1,000,000 miles per hour. It's like so many ideas to write down. Anyway. So what do we want to do? So Infusion Altar is one of those things where I want to nerf that. So let me also just make cooldown reduction. Why can't I type? Cooldown reduction innate. But here's the other thing that I want to do is I want to introduce maybe a legendary reagent. Legendary reagent, do I have... Let's see, reagent, strip innate / absorb innate. Yeah, something like that. So a legendary reagent that allows you to take an innate off of an ability and put it somewhere else. Because so before I started introducing innate abilities, I had expressed that I didn't really like the idea of innates because it felt like I was putting a band-aid fix on an otherwise like very straightforward system, which is that you can mix and match the abilities freely. But I do think that the innates have been good for the game. I just think that if I'm going to put more things behind innates, then I still want to have I want to retain the potential that some of those abilities could be pulled out and used. You know, in a different item. When your mind is busy thinking, you often get a lot of ideas for new games and ideas for games, so making the mind be less busy ends up doing more damage than good for game developers. Maybe. Okay, anyway. So let's do Infusion Altar. Do I have multiple... Here. I have multiple nerf Infusion Altar cards here. All right, let's take a look at this one. Are you able to gain ability slots based on tier through an ability? That would be an interesting one. Let me think how that would work. Would that work? Yeah, I mean, I think I should be able to do that. Ability ideas. Gain ability slots. Oops. All right, so let's take a look at the Infusion Altar. What kind of games do you play? Biggest inspo? I don't play really any games that are like Alchemortis, which is kind of funny, I guess. Mostly if I'm going to play a game, it's going to be like the recent games that I've played with my friends have been like Arc Raiders. I played the No Rest for the Wicked campaign with my friend recently. What else? Dark Souls, Elden Ring. Trying to think, I played a little bit. I started playing the new Path of Exile update a little bit, but I haven't had a whole lot of time to go deep into that. I think I'm like level 20 or something. Hello, Mr. Elliptic. Thank you for the raid. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much. Good to see you, Mr. Elliptic. League of Legends. No, I'm done with League of Legends. Can't stay. Awesome. Thanks again, and have a good day. So for anyone who's just hopping into the stream, I'm currently working on my game Alchemortis. It's made in Godot. It's an auto battler where you can use alchemy to create your own builds and synergies. And there's a playtest open right now. So if you like roguelike auto battlers, and this one's got a dark fantasy, necromancy, medieval science theme. If that sounds appealing to you, try the playtest. Let me know what you think in the Discord server. But yeah, we're just working on some tweaks and updates to the game. All right, let's take a look at the Infusion Altar here. Hello, V. Welcome, Abo. Do you think Godot is better than Unity for beginners? Do I think that? Honestly, I don't have enough experience with Unity to say for sure. I would say that Godot... I mean, I think Godot is relatively beginner-friendly. I think any engine is just going to be hard to learn as a beginner because engines just have so much going on. But the fact that Godot is, you know, easy to download, open source, there's a whole bunch of like really good free learning resources. I think it's about as beginner friendly as an engine could be, but it's still complicated. It's still complex because it's a game engine, right? I think we're probably getting to the point now where you could say that Godot's learning resources are, like, it used to be the case for a long time that Unity's like wealth of learning resources was a big reason to go with Unity because you would be able to get started quicker. But I think Godot is catching up. I think that the community as well as the official documentation, like between those two things, there's a lot more resources for new learners. So yeah, I think it's, you know, I think it's as beginner friendly as you could maybe get for a game engine, but there's still a lot going on. I'm doing well. How are you? Is there a design pattern you would recommend for all enemies in a Metroidvania, or am I thinking this the wrong way? Enemies in a Metroidvania, honestly, I'd probably just use like a component approach, composition. Like you're probably going to have, I mean, it depends on what the complexity of your enemies are, but you know, you just have like a health component, you'd have like a hitbox component, and then every enemy probably has different behaviors. So you would just script those behaviors at the root of that enemy type script. And then you would just generalize all of the other stuff that's shared between the enemies into components. That's probably what I would do. That's what I did for my game Gunforged, and it worked really well. So yeah, I just basically had a bunch of generalized components with all the functionality that was like kind of shared between every entity. But then since every entity behaved differently in terms of like their state machine or whatever, I just wrote the state machine in a bespoke manner for each different type of enemy. Okay. So I'm trying to figure out how can I actually get so I need to get the ability list of whatever item this ability is on, so I can count up the number of corrupted abilities. So let's rename this repeat count per corrupted ability. Just keep that at 1, but that's all right. We're gonna get rid of this scaling. Let's just do card data provider is equal to new card data provider. And we'll slap this in here. Okay. This rerun card execution, I need to make this, I need to start using like functions in here instead. So let's do func int repeat count func. Var amount is equal to repeat count func. There we go. Get magnitude, return. Does this have to be a magnitude ability? Where else am I using this? Cursed figurehead. I really don't know if this needs to be... I should probably be even more specific with this. I should probably just do repeat count provider. We're going to get rid of this ability magnitude. I don't think this needs to be a magnitude ability. I'll make it a magnitude ability if I need it to be, but we'll do repeat count provider dot get value. Okay. So the nice thing about this being abstracted as a repeat count provider is that I could just provide like a scalar value if I wanted to through an ability value provider, or there can be a function that sort of backs this get value so that every time this is called, it reevaluates that function to get a current count. So probably what I would do is I would just do var repeat count provider, generic value provider int, and then I would return card data provider. I need to extend this as well. Card data provider dot base card dot trying to think of how I want to do this. Public int corrupted ability count, get private set, has corrupted ability count greater than 0. Okay. Corrupted ability count is equal to this dot composed abilities dot count, where the composed ability is a corrupted ability. And then if we detected a difference, then we invoke those events. Okay. And then we can do the repeat count provider here. Oh, let's just do, it's fine. I don't need this. It's fine. Actually, maybe I do need that. This is going to seem really redundant, but whatever. It's fine. So this item executes again. So this is where I do repeat count per corrupted ability. Let's see. Description keywords dot corrupted ability on this item. Description count plural func. This would just be repeat per corrupted ability. So I don't know. It's probably not going to change from 1, but I guess it doesn't hurt to support that. Function collapse. Goodness gracious. Okay. This is also redundant now, but that's okay. Well, let's just see if it works, I guess. Oh, you know what I also need to do? Okay, before I do that, turn off the base ability slot override there. Okay. So now I need to provide a value here. Oh, this just needs, okay. This is going to also be a little bit weird, but that's okay. I should probably just make sure the cursed figurehead still works as well. Okay, let's see. Oh, you know what? I think I did this wrong. This is going to be a tricky one, actually. Oh, did I put this in the wrong spot? Do I need it in both spots? I don't know, we'll see. My cat is making a ruckus outside my door right now. Maybe you can't hear him. Hi. Okay. So I don't think I did this right, actually. So what this description is implying that This description is implying that what? Oh gosh. It's implying that the item that's being projected to needs to have the corrupted abilities. And that, I think that's actually the way that the ability works too. I mean, is that fine though? Maybe that's actually better. Maybe that's actually better. Squiggly Wiggly finds that has some kind of obnoxious shape. Yeah, I could do stuff like that for sure. Okay. So let me just see if I can get a corrupted ability on one of these things. Oh, I got the opposite of corrupted ability. That's fun. Still not getting any corrupted abilities. There we go. Okay, so we've got apply 8 armor to enemy, deal 4 damage. Oh. So now if I do the infusion altar with this guy, this is going to apply 16 armor to the enemy and deal 8 damage. So I don't know. Let's see. That might actually be better. That sounds better. It'll still be broken if you have the corrupted abilities be on the altar itself. Yeah. Because now I'm thinking it's like, well, there's a limited number of items that can actually fit in this slot anyway. And so you basically have to find an item that fits here or buff the item a bunch with some extra ability slots. Let's see if this works though. So yeah, it applied, let's see. Skeleton Warrior applied 8 armor to enemy, dealt 4 armor damage. Applied 8 armor to enemy, dealt 4 armor damage. So yeah, that's correct. Actually, that's probably better. I feel like that's a pretty significant nerf while also still being very useful in a lot of situations. And now this has been opened up too, so you can put a bunch of different abilities on here as well. There's one thing that I'm noticing though. I wonder if I can add an icon here. Is this the same? Is this 9x9? Oh, it is 9x9. Okay, so it should work actually. Yeah, so it's got a little icon now for the corrupted. Oh, wait, I think there was a reason why I didn't do that. Let me try something. Right, the reason why I didn't do that is because it's... it's got the double icon there now. Is it worth fixing that? Okay, well, I won't address that right now. We can do that as a separate piece of work. I think the infusion altar is probably good now. So it executes again for each corrupted ability on the target item. Yeah. So it's the projected ability that says that the item executes based on the number of corrupted abilities. So yeah, whatever item is being projected to, that's the corrupted abilities that are counted. You can just revert the corrupted ability icon back to the normal icon and keep the corrupted icon on the corrupted word itself. I think that is an option. I think people generally like the icons and like on the side though, because I actually got some feedback that I should actually expand the number of different icons. So like projected abilities should have different icons in the side here, which I think is probably a good idea actually. So I'm probably going to do that. So the idea is like you should be able to tell like at a glance like what category each ability is. So like ideally these kinds of abilities with like the filled and unfilled version, those would be like, okay, these are my ability slots and here's how many are filled and here's how many are not. But then for something like a projected ability, this should be like, I don't know, some other icon. So you know that this is not part of like your ability slots. Hello, Tiberius Claudius. When you imagine your ideal game, open Godot, close Godot, died. Yeah. Yep. Okay, so for this corrupted thing, I think what I can probably do capitalize description keywords. I'll probably need to create a different keyword that's like corrupted no icon or something. If I was going to redo this keyword system, I'd probably create like actual keyword objects. And then I could have like a little configuration on each keyword, whether I want there to be an icon or not or whatever, but we're too far gone at this point. We're too far gone at this point. This cat, oh my gosh. What do you want? Here's your attention. I'm just going to max out your attention right now. Do you feel better now? Do you feel better now? Okay. Oops, what did I just do? Okay, so now in base composed ability, I can do corrupted no icon. Build. How does the altar scale now? It doesn't scale. Its innate ability doesn't scale now. So, but it has open ability slots. So previously the altar had no open ability slots. Now its innate ability doesn't scale with the altars tier, but you know, obviously any other abilities that you add to it would scale. And if that's not good, I can change it. An item with the same key has already been added. What? Oh, can I use a null keyword? Wait a minute. How does this actually work? Description keywords. Description utils, keyword colors. Yeah. Wait a minute, I don't understand this. This should be skipping. It's iterating over all of these. Oh, because I'm not adding it to the all added keys, right? Okay. Here's what I'm going to do. This is going to be weird, but private const string. No, public const string. Actually, is that going to work? No, I don't know what I'm doing. I think I just need to do new hash set string. So what I'm trying to do is I just want to point corrupted no icon and corrupted to the same translation key. Yeah, I think that's all I want to do. So I had some validation in place to prevent me from adding duplicate keys on accident, but now I actually have a use case where I actually do want to have duplicate keys because I want them to reference the same translation string. So that should just work. And so now this has the icon there, but if I do this, it should be, yeah, the icon is pushed over into the left side now. So I'm basically just excluding the icon from this string here. But any other time that I use corrupted, it will have the icon by default. So I think that makes sense. I think that makes sense. And I built my translation file. I didn't see any differences, which is exactly what I expected. So yeah, I think we're good. All right. Minor little change there. How do you go about coming up with a game idea? I think there's lots of different strategies. You know, one of the strategies is to come up with a genre, like a mix of genres, or to come up with some kind of subversion of a genre. So I'm trying to think of like what a good one is. Like it's a first person shooter, but you play as a can of soup, right? Like that that is like the kind of idea that you can think of, right? Like you add an exception to it or you subvert some kind of expectation. That could be a good way to come up with ideas. The way that I just come up with my ideas is like I take whatever game inspires me. So in the case of Alchemortis, it would have been like the Bazaar. And then I say, okay, like I'm going to basically do a lot of the same stuff as the Bazaar, but I'm going to try to add like one unique thing to it, right? And in this case, the one unique thing is the alchemy system. Maybe the second unique thing, although it's not terribly unique, is the fact that it's a roguelike, but you can find plenty of roguelike auto-battlers, so it's not unique within the genre, but it's unique compared to the idea that I started with, which is like I took a look at the Bazaar and I said, okay, this is a PvP game, make it a single-player roguelike, and then add the alchemy system, right? And then the theme as well is something that you can just like layer on top of that, right? So like those are mechanical things, but then it's like, okay, what is the presentation? How about a dark fantasy necromancer kind of esque game, right? So I think that's a good way to do it. You just you basically like twist existing ideas. Like I think people tend to put a little bit too much emphasis on like trying to be really, really unique and super original. Why can't I close this? Is my middle mouse button not working? But I don't think you need to be like super unique. I think you just need to do a couple of things or like one thing different, and like that's all that you really need to do. Can I close things yet? What is happening? My middle mouse button doesn't work. Did my middle mouse button break? Do I need a new mouse? What in the heck? What in the heck? Okay, that's kind of annoying. Anyway, infusion altar is done. Add icon to corrupted keyword. Just create a card and mark it as done. I mean, my done column here, this is what I use for like the patch notes. So I just, even if I didn't initially start with a card, I add a card and put it in the done column so I know what needs to be logged for the patch notes in the future. Okay, let's take a look at the cooldown reduction abilities now. Goodness, that's annoying. Hello, Mel's, welcome. Finally able to sit down and play some Alchemortis. Been like 3 playtests since the last time. Awesome, Johan. Well, I hope you like it. Hope you like it. Personally, I found that I seem to lean to RPGs. I'm obsessed with Eastward. Any other genre I have absolutely no passion for, but I also have no character design or storytelling experience. Currently taking the free Pixar in a Box course on storytelling. Yeah, I mean, that's whatever you can do to learn the skills that you need to do to learn to make the game you want to make. I think RPGs are hard. At least that's my impression. But like that could be like one of your hooks, right? It could be like, well, it's an RPG, but it's like a micro RPG, right? It's like a very condensed, simplified experience. That might be some way you can think about it. So instead of thinking about building like a sprawling world with all kinds of stat trees and things, maybe you can do something clever and like compress the experience down quite a bit, right? Like maybe you could tell a compelling story that's worth people's time in like 2 to 3 hours or something, with like very basic dialogue and world building and all that stuff. If you made a first-person Daredevil game, you save yourself a lot of time. Sell a fantasy and open world exploration game where you play as a Campbell's soup can rolling home from the supermarket. Yeah, see, like that's a very compelling idea, right? I mean, there's a whole movie based off of that, right? Hello, Ashwin. Welcome. Completely agree. So much content that the players see one time. Yeah. Loving the playtest so far. Awesome. Glad to hear that. I wish my middle mouse button worked. That's going to annoy me. Anyway, so I'm going to work on making like cooldown reduction abilities innate. And then we'll see what happens from there. So yeah, I'll be right back in just 3 minutes. I'm going to take a quick break and then we will continue on. All right, I'm back. Thank you, Ninja Link, for answering that question. All right, so cooldown reduction. What is the easiest way to identify all the items with cooldown reduction? Be a jerk and say I don't like that the banner image is completely different in style than the entire game. Yeah, I mean, the problem though is that the problem with making a banner image in the style of the game, I mean, I think it's themed properly. The problem is like it's just not very clickable on Steam because like all the colors are relatively dark. You know, I mean, there's obviously some light colors here, but what we wanted to do when we were creating the Steam capsule art is create something with like a bold color and a really bold silhouette as well. So, I mean, the colors are kind of similar. You know, you've got excuse me, purples and teal and whatnot. But, Yeah, our primary goal is to create a big, bold, clickable color with a very strong silhouette. So we weren't optimizing for like necessarily like matching the game's in-game theme. We were optimizing for eye grabbing, attention grabbing on Steam. Looks really good. I'm just thrown off. Yeah, that's all right. Bless you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right, so let's take a look. Where do we got cooldown reduction? Do I not have cooldown reduction as a filter in here? Are you kidding me? I don't have cooldown reduction in here. Okay. So Snail Cat is 1. Should I be writing these down? Snail Cat, I know we've got the Skeleton Commander, right? Let's see. Skeleton Commander will actually... Might want to redo that ability. Maybe I'll just take the innate off of this ability. Okay. I think I'll keep the eyeball not innate because that one's hard to get anyway. I'm gonna redo like how the elite fights work and what their rewards are, so. Immovable monolith, you can't do anything with that anyway, so it doesn't matter. It appears you don't have Echo. I do have Echo, yeah. There's all the Echo cards, Echo items. What's all the, what? Is that really only the turn cooldown ones that I have? So Snail Cat and Skeleton Commander, is that it? We've got this one which is sets the cooldown. Maybe Reach of the Apostate should be innate as well. Yeah. Oh, Fungus Giganticus and okay, so those aren't cooldown abilities, those are like set abilities, but those ones probably should be changed as well. So Giant Mushroom as well as Reach of Apostate. What else? Why is the Mystery Tonic wrong? We're gonna have to fix that. Hold on. Wait, does Unicorn Horn have the same problem? I think that's all the cooldown reduction or cooldown setting stuff. Why does Mystery Tonic... interesting. Only played one run and I don't know if I got lucky, but I got all the way to the final stronghold without paying much attention to synergies at all. Not sure if that's a common experience. Fun though. Yeah, I mean there's a pretty big like tension in the game, so it's like I'm getting a lot of comments about the game being overwhelming for new players. So that's one side of things, right? And the reason it's overwhelming is because there's like just a lot going on, right? And players don't know how alchemy works either. So the tension is that for new players who are still figuring out the game, like I need to be a little bit forgiving if you're not like maximizing your synergies, right? Because if players are just getting absolutely stomped because what the game is demanding of them is like perfect synergies, then I think people are just going to bounce off the game very quickly. What I need to have is a situation where like you can get by with kind of like doing like really bad alchemies and stuff, but like as long as you're like doing something that's kind of good, you should be able to get pretty far in the run. So it's like one of those things where like the base difficulty needs to be something that demands at least some alchemization and some synergies from you without being so far in that direction that people who are trying to learn the game are just like not making any progress, right? So it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, it's just there's kind of a lot of tension in terms of how to manage that. Crystal ball, you say? Something you see on a store shelf, basically. I'm honestly used to the box art, capsule art, and pixel art games looking at least somewhat different from the actual in-game art. Yeah. I think that's just pretty common for games generally. Did I miss the crystal ball in here? Where is the crystal ball? Here. Oh yeah, so those ones, I could see those being a problem because you could get these cooldowns really low and then proc this a bunch. But I think I'll just start with those ones that I've identified, and then we can go from there. That was the original item abused like crazy last playtest before the cooldown was increased. Yeah, I think it's maybe that will need to change, but let's just focus on these ones for now. Actually, I want to look at the mystery tonic first. Right. Do I want to do this? Okay. So then in my mystery juice, I have no idea if that's going to work. Let's see. I think it will. Didn't expect to get so much joy out of getting a snail cat and a booster pack. Yeah. Hello, Dab Master. I've been watching your videos for some time. I need advice about something in my game development. Can you help me out with it? I mean, you could ask questions here for sure. Or you can ask questions in the Discord. Why is that still wrong? Oh, it's literally just negative 33 there. Oh, I need to redo the translations. Right. Okay. Third time's a charm. Okay, that seems to be working. Is there another instance? Yeah. The gemstone is the other one. So let's fix that one too. Okay, so we've got that. We build, then we rebuild the translations. I'm a Unity developer, and I've been doing that for almost 5 years. I'm working on my own project, but lately Unity has been a hurdle instead of being a tool. I guess I could resolve this to-do. Man, we're going down a rabbit hole. I've been thinking of using Godot to make a small mobile game and test a full workflow, but I used it before and it wasn't a nice experience. The node structure and the programming language. It was very frustrating. Yeah, I mean, I could see why that would be the case. It's a little bit different. Like it expects you to work. It expects. It expects to work with you in a little bit of a different way than other engines. Maybe I'll just make this. I'm trying to think. How does the chisel actually work? I never actually tested this. Can the chisel absorb multiple abilities? No, it's got a limit of 1. Man, this is a mess. Maybe I just need to do that. All right, let's build. Let's see what happens. Isn't Unity's model behavior library built on C# though, the latter of which you can use in Godot? That's true. And Godot's scene concept is close to Unity's instancing. Yeah, it seems like that's my impression too, that those things are very similar, but C# is usable in Godot, but is not treated as equal as GDScript. Maybe that's true to an extent, but I'm not having any issues whatsoever with C#. Why is this one different? We'll just set that to be a limit as well. Maybe that will fix it. Hello, Cereza Black Moon. Welcome, welcome. Good to see you. C# doesn't have some features that GDScript has. Okay, so I need to check the mushroom spore and the chisel now. So let's add those. Okay. Try to learn it through YouTube videos, but there seems like a lack of tutorials, or at least not as many as GDScript. Yeah, that is true for sure. But the Godot API in C# is basically the same. It's basically like everything that you expect to be accessible in GDScript is accessible in C#. There are just some like GDScript specific language features that don't work. Like there's no such thing as a preload in C#. That's a GDScript specific language feature. But all the Godot APIs are accessible perfectly fine through C#. So, and the APIs are named basically the same thing, just in Pascal case. I think this is working. Yeah. Let's just check the giant mushroom spore now. Okay, that all seems to be working, so we can call that good. All right. We can get rid of this to do as well because I fixed that. All right. All right. So now we can go back to doing what I was doing, which is making these innate. All right. Middle mouse button still isn't working. Why? Okay. I'm going to do a little bit of extra work on the skeleton commander, I think. So undead turn cooldown reduction. This one is going to become innate. We're going to make this one not innate. And then let's reverse the order here. I don't think the order matters. I think it sorts innate to the top always anyway. So I think that's probably okay, but the tricky part is going to be wording this. Because what I want this to do is I want to do a repeater. Ability repeater. The ability is the base true damage ability. Oh, wait a minute. Is this going to work? This might not actually work. Oh, that's unfortunate. Let's see. Doesn't work. Shoot, now I have to figure out how to do this one. So the reason why this doesn't work, this query target provider is not resolved until it gets here. So this is not resolved, the count is not resolved until it gets executed, and then this ability comes directly after that. So it doesn't have an up-to-date count, because what this repeater does is this basically just expands out an ability list. So when I do get all flattened abilities, or I think maybe it's not here. Get all composed abilities, it iterates over every composed ability, and it flattens those composed abilities. I think I can change this though. Composed abilities to add to execution count. I might have to use this. Insert range I+1. Yeah, I might have to do that. So what's happening is that it's flattening the tree. When that flatten happens, this repeat ability gets resolved at that point, which just returns the number of abilities that's equal to whatever's returned by this execution count func. But the problem is, the value returned by that execution count func is based on the query target provider, but that hasn't been resolved yet. This gets resolved later in the ability sequence. So basically what's happening is it's getting the list of abilities to execute prior to this resolving, but this is dependent on what this resolves to. So it's just not correct. So I'm going to need to figure out what to do about that. Let's see. I'm not going to read every chat here. I love Godot. The composition leaning workflow has felt intuitive for me. I've never used any other engine, but to me it seems like Godot makes it easy to build modular systems. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things, like, I think it's up to personal preference too. Like, I think it's just going to click with some people faster than it clicks with other people. Like, for me, Godot made sense immediately. Like, I was like, oh, this is a very intuitive way of building games. But obviously for some people, they're not going to have the same experience. And I'm assuming that's probably particularly true if you have experience in other engines. When having playtesters, how do you protect your assets from being stolen? You just have faith in them. Hi, by the way, having lots of fun with Gunforge. Can't wait for the game as well. Well, thank you, Hamlet Game Dev. Yeah, that's not something I've given much thought to. I think when I eventually have like a demo build up on the Steam page, I will put in some effort to like strip all of the non-demo content from the build. So it's at least the case that if you download the demo build, you can't just like unlock the full game by just like modifying the files or whatever. But, you know, it's one of those things where it's like how much effort is it actually worth? Because any effort I would take to protect the assets could be, you know, worked around anyway. Because like the fundamental problem is that anything that ends up on a client machine is insecure by default, right? I mean, you've got these major AAA games who have de novo anti-cheat or anti-crack mechanisms, and then they get cracked within like 3 days, right? So it's like, if the AAA companies that are like making tens of millions of dollars can't do it, then like there's a certain amount of effort where it's like it's not even worth it for me to do, you know? I think I should just give it more time. It'll be a better experience in the long run. Yeah, I think it's probably just a different way of doing things, and I think, you know, you don't have to like Godot either, right? It just may be the case that like you try and it just never works for you, and that's okay too, you know? If I'm moving from Pico 8 over, or Pico 8, I never know how to say that, over to Godot, so should I use GScript or C#? I do not know. I don't have any experience with Pico 8, so I don't know. Maybe somebody else can chime in on that. Since you're using a color palette of only a few colors, got any tips for somebody who has only 2 colors to work with? Yeah, I mean, that's basically just like a 1-bit color palette, right? I think the definition of 1-bit has been expanded to mean just like any color palette that has 2 colors. Doing 1-bit games is definitely a little bit harder because you obviously don't have, like, you don't have colors for highlights and shadows. So you have to make really effective use of like a negative space, right? Yeah, I think maybe that's my tip, is like try to look up how to effectively use like negative space. Maybe look up some tutorials, some art tutorials or some art presentations, I don't know, on like effective use of negative space, because that's going to be like your bread and butter for like a 1-bit color palette, right? Because obviously when you only have 2 colors to work with, you're going to be more concerned about separating objects from each other rather than like trying to make sure the objects are like lit properly. You know what I mean? And that's okay too while I'm listening to the soundtrack of Area 3. I don't know what that is. But if it's poignant, then there you go. Godot has its own encryption thing. I saw PCK and Pixelorama. I think it's there to encrypt it. Not sure how it works. The PCK comes with every Godot engine. That's just like where all of your files get packed to. It's like, I guess it's probably for performance reasons, because it gets packed into like this massive archive file. And the way that I think it works, the way that I understand it, is that like whenever you're like going to the disk to like read a resource, that's why it has like the resource directory like prefix. Like you load something from the resource directory, because when you build the game, you export the game, the resource directory is actually just like a pointer to some location in that packed file. It's not actually going to any like real directory on your system. So I think what Godot does is it just like bundles up all your assets and stuffs them all in this like massive archive. You can encrypt the PCK, I believe. I think that's what the encryption does, because when you export a Godot game, essentially what you're exporting is you're actually exporting the Godot engine executable. That becomes your exe. So your exe doesn't really have anything about your game inside of it. It's literally just like, here's Godot, right? And then the PCK is the thing that contains all of your... The PCK is basically the thing that contains your game. So that's where all of your scripts are. That's where all of your assets are, your sound effects, everything. But I think encrypting the PCK is an option that you can do, because that's the thing that you want to encrypt, because that's where all your content is. So the Godot executable remains unencrypted because it's just Godot, or your game executable is just Godot. And then the PCK becomes encrypted, which then gets decrypted by Godot at runtime. I think that's how it works. Oh, I meant Alchem Mortis Area 3. Oh, gotcha. Yes, that makes sense. I love that Area 3 music. I think it's great. My friend did a good job on the music. Even harder for my game, since my game lets the player flip from one color to another and back. Oh yeah, that does sound tough. I have my son watching it because he wants to code and do mods. Awesome. Well, welcome, Cereza Black Moon's son. Glad to have you here. All right, let's get back into some coding then. If that's what the audience wants, then that's what they'll get. My middle mouse button still doesn't work. Oh my gosh, that's annoying. That is annoying. So this rerun ability, I got to figure out how to make this this ability repeater work. I might have to do, let me think. I might need to create 2 versions of the ability repeater. Composed abilities to add to execution. Let me think about this. So base card. Where is this used? Okay. Let's do something else here. If I'll replace this later, abilities.insert range I+1. Is that right? Argument out of range exception. I guess we'll just roll with it. Public list base card ability. Base abilities to add to execution. Get set. Okay, if execution result dot base abilities to add to execution dot count is greater than 0, I'm going to insert. Is this a bug? Like, what happens if I try to add something at range? I think this might be a bug. I'll see if I can recreate the bug specifically. So essentially, I'm just adding another line in here that allows me to add base abilities to the execution count, because that's what the ability repeater does. So if I go to my ability repeater now, what I can do is I can essentially just do the same thing here. Let's do a list of base card ability. I don't know. I is equal to 0. Let's just not be fancy. I is less than count. I plus plus. Abilities dot add. Ability. Return new execution result. Base abilities to add to execution is equal to abilities. Okay, so now for the skeleton commander, this should work. However, since this is at the end of the list, that may actually create an issue for me. But let's just see what happens. I'm developing a roguelike and I'm turning most of my entities into generic ones that can be configured through a resource, and I'm just wondering, will it be scalable? That entirely depends on how complex your game is going to be. If your enemies are always very basic, then configuring them through a resource is probably okay. It depends on like what you're configuring too. Like if all of your I'm just going to take it to a different example. If you're developing an RPG and every entity just has like a list of like base stats, right? Like every entity has like a natural like armor resistance, fire resistance, they have a base health or whatever, then yeah, defining all those things in a resource is a very good idea. But where the entities differ is where the problem is going to come in with custom resources, right? So if you have like a warthog enemy that needs to like stop at like and look at the player and then do a charge attack, and then after it does the charge attack, it gains like 10% armor resistance or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like that's going to be hard to express, very hard to express using just a resource. So what I typically do when I use resources is like I identify the common things that are going to be used across everything that could make use of that resource, and I define the base parameters there. And the base parameters would again be like, what is the base health, what's the base armor, etc. And you might even have like base scaling values, right? So like if all of your entities can have a level, you might say, well, like here's the scale curve for this entity, right? Here's the level scale curve. So you might have some entities that scale harder than other ones, right? But when it comes to like what can actually dynamically change during the game, like you could receive a buff that increases your health temporarily by 50 or whatever. Those are the kind of things that can't really be effectively expressed in resources. So yeah, whatever base like boilerplate information you can define, that's a good use of a resource. But whatever is dynamic and is going to change depending on like the context of the game, that is not a good use of a resource. And so you can mix and match both, right? You can use the resource to populate your initial entity stats and then have the gameplay systems take over and modify those base stats in however they need to be modified. Usually I have to buy a new mouse because I somehow managed to break the middle mouse button and so many games use it nowadays. Yeah, it's like the middle mouse button is like, it feels like the most well, maybe the thumb buttons. The middle mouse button feels like the most fragile button to me. I mean, it's fine. It's like without fail, I can only go like a year and a half or 2 years on a mouse before like something starts breaking down and I have to get a new mouse. So it's just like, I kind of just think of it as like I have a mouse subscription and I just got to pay like $30 a year for the mouse subscription or whatever. It's like, I mean, honestly, like Keychron, just send me a new mouse every year and a half, honestly. If I could get like a 10% discount if you just auto ship me one every year and a half, like just do that. Pretty sure Godot games can be completely decompiled with relative ease as the engine currently stands, yeah. What do you mean you expected to fix yourself? Well, the thing is, like, the button doesn't feel any different, so I'm almost wondering if it's like a software issue rather than a hardware issue. Like, after this stream is over, I'm going to restart my computer and see what happens. Oh, I was, let's see. Yeah, that's a good example of a challenge you might come across. The Razer Naga technically has 3 middle mouse buttons. Very nice. You know, I'm just like, I'm not one of these people that needs like all these buttons on my mouse. It's just like, the most important thing to me for a mouse is like the shape of it. Like I'm using the Keychron M6. I don't know. I don't know how the camera works. So this has like the same kind of form factor as like the Logitech MX Master mice, but it's like $40 cheaper. And it has a higher polling rate too, which is good for when you're gaming. Oh, the thumb scroll wheel too. I'm not a Keychron salesman, but the thumb scroll wheel here is like so nice to have. Like I just can't use a mouse anymore that doesn't have a thumb scroll wheel. I've had my original Logitech G Pro since it released. That's 10 years. That's pretty good. Holds its battery really well still. 8 years. Alrighty. I think C# can feel like GTScript if you code it like C. I do not know. I do not know if that's true. I don't have any experience in C. I guess I did something wrong because the game's soft locked. Oh my gosh, this has 527,000 elements in it. Well, it's not crashing. Or it's crashing, but it's not crashing here. It's just inserting a massive amount of abilities. Why is that happening? Oh, this is a composed ability. Now, why would a composed ability be breaking? What is even going on here? Okay, I think the core problem here is that I'm just going to make this handle this gracefully. Ability is base composed ability. Question mark. Let's do is not base composed ability. Base, let's do composed ability, static execution ability is base composed ability. Abilities. Really? This is like so unbelievably sloppy, but that's okay. I'm just curious to see if that's going to fix it. Something about that being a composed ability was like not working. But that's okay. I just want to see if this works. Let me see this work, please. Okay. That worked. So there was something about it being a composed ability. I don't really feel like going through the logic of it, but basically there's two loops in here when I execute card abilities. Firstly, I iterate over all the composed abilities, and then what I do is I decompose those composed abilities to create a flattened list of base abilities. And then I iterate over that flattened list of base abilities. So the problem here is that if I am adding a composed ability to this inner abilities list, something is just not working right there. I have to, if it's a composed ability that I want to repeat, I have to explicitly add it to composed abilities to add to execution count, because this adds it to that outer, or this makes it process in that outer loop so that the abilities can be decomposed and so on and so forth. So, but the problem is that my base composed abilities are base card abilities, right? So like everything's a base card ability. So when I have this repeat with this ability repeater, I'm basically just saying accept any ability type. But then I have to go in here and I have to check, okay, well, if it's a composed ability, it actually needs to behave a little bit differently. Now, the other fix for that would be to not make that damage a composed ability, to go here and instead of doing ability builder.true damage, I could just do var true damage is equal to new damage base true damage. And then we do ignore armor true, and that turns it into true damage. The problem with that though is now I've got to rewrite the scaling logic. So it can be more convenient to just take the composed ability version of that, because this already includes the scaling logic. And then I just need to call scale for tier on it in here. So I think that works. Now, the problem is that I have to figure out if I need to make a new version of this for non-combat abilities specifically, because this is actually, this is going to be a problem. So let me actually copy this. Can I create a new file here? Okay, new file. We do a non-combat ability repeater. What in the heck? Here we go. Non-combat ability repeater. This becomes an I non-combat ability as well as an I composite ability. We're going to get rid of I composite ability here. Okay, so we've got that, and then we have the non-combat ability repeater version. This one is just going to return an empty result for execute. And then this can continue to return just get abilities to execute, and then that's fine. So now I need to go to where I was using the ability repeater for the Wheel of Misfortune. Actually, yeah, I think that's fine, actually. The Wheel of Misfortune just happened to be working because this count... I don't know, man. I don't know. I think it makes more sense the way that I have it. Why would I need a non-combat ability repeater now that I think about it? What was I thinking of? The infusion altar. Doesn't this use an ability repeater? Rerun card execute. Oh, rerun card execution. Actually, I may not need that non-combat ability repeater. I think I just implemented it wrong. I implemented it as an iComposite ability, expecting that, oh, I could just return all of the abilities that it needs to have in its list up front, but I didn't account for the fact that this number may change, the number returned by execution count func. So it's actually safer to just do it all at execution time, like this. So when this ability gets executed, it evaluates the execution count func, which is guaranteed to return the current result, the current count that I need. And then I just add it as abilities to add to execution. So I think that makes sense. Maybe it makes sense. I don't know. This system is getting pretty complex. I mean, look at all these different abilities that I can have. Like this whole list right here are just all different types of abilities to make. These are all the building blocks of my ability system. And so the composed abilities are just like abilities that are composed from those building blocks. But it becomes a little bit tricky to keep track of, because then I have like, you know, I've got like some overlap between things. Like I've got this one ability that does this one thing, and it's very similar to how this other ability does this thing, but there's like a key difference that kind of makes it weird. And then I have to think about like what are the difference between like passive and active abilities and how they can function. It's just kind of like a little bit of a mess, but that's okay. I should probably check that the Wheel of Misfortune still works. Overall impression is that this is just a lot more fun to play now on a visceral level. Awesome, glad to hear that. No Vim? No, I'm not a real programmer, I'm sorry. I'm the programmer that you get at the Dollar General. Give me my GUIs. Well, that doesn't quite sound right. I like my user interfaces. I want to click with my mouse. Okay. Let's check the Wheel of Misfortune now. One damage 5 times, so we need to resolve this. Resurrect, Wheel of Misfortune. I'm just going to move these out. So I should see 5 damage being done. Ow, and it broke. I'm glad I checked it. There's something weird happening here. Maybe this base ability to add to execution is just wrong. Because anytime that I'm adding this, it doesn't work. Why doesn't that work? So it actually... Oh, I'm using the wrong number. I'm using the wrong index. This should be J because this is the inner loop. But I still don't know why that would have caused an issue. So if I had I+1, oh, right. Yeah, the reason why it was causing an issue is... I may have been prepending these things to the array or to the list. That would make sense, right? So if I was placing it at I+1, no, that doesn't make sense. I don't think I was prepending. I don't know, honestly. But I'm assuming that's going to fix it. I was just using the wrong index value. I was using the index of the outer loop to add abilities to the inner loop list, which was just wrong, just straight up. But I don't know if I have the energy to figure out exactly why that was wrong. It's good enough just to know that it was wrong. Okay, let's see. Please don't crash. Please don't crash. Okay. Let's see. It should have done 1 damage 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes. Okay. We are golden, Pony Boy. Now let's just make sure... Let's just make sure that the skeleton commander still works. Add item, skeleton, warrior. Okay, so now we've got the hardest part of this whole thing, which is I gotta figure out how to reword this ability so that it makes sense. Okay. Oh, goodness. People asking for Vim, yeah. Once this is working, will you be refactoring the skeleton commander to use the new ability? Yeah, he already is using that new ability. So I just have to make sure... So he's using the ability repeater. So I just gotta reword this ability now. Am I then? Dollar General Programmer, that's a good one. Can we get a skeleton wheel just like the Dark Souls? Just like the Dark Souls. No, just like Dark Souls. Maybe. That would be a fun one to do. Are we getting Gunforge 2 in the future? A shooter 3D MMO roguelike? Look, I think Gunforged, like, I think there's a lot of potential still with Gunforged that I didn't do a very good job of, like, realizing. And I'm a lot better at art now. So I may take another stab at doing that kind of game. I don't know if it would, like, be Gunforged 2 or whatever. But we'll see. We'll see. I don't want to think too far ahead. But I'm glad you're enjoying Gunforged. Glad you're enjoying Gunforged. Okay, I'm going to take another quick 2-minute break, and then we'll keep working. I mean, I got nothing else to do this afternoon, so we'll go a little bit longer on the stream, but I am going to take another break, so I'll be right back in just 3 minutes, and we'll continue on. All right, I'm back. Gunforged 6 when. Speaking of thinking too far ahead, any advice for releasing a game? I mean, I'm trying to think. Do I have any advice for releasing a game? Honestly, any advice I could give about that would probably not be that helpful, because this is something that I'm still figuring out myself as well. And that's why, you know, I have a publisher now, is like they're going to help with like a lot of the release and launch like coordination and stuff and the marketing for that. The only stuff I could really talk about would be like process stuff. So maybe I'll talk about that, because like that's the only thing that I can really think of that I could actually give you some helpful insight on. I think it would be, if you're going to release a game that is going to be purchasable by people, I highly recommend like setting up a build pipeline for your game. And the reason for that is because the build pipelines are very predictable, right? They do the same exact series of release steps every single time, right? And so you don't want to be in a situation where when you're creating a new build of your game that's going to go public, like a new patch or whatever, you don't want to have like a giant checklist of like manual things that you need to do, right? Like, I need to do this, I need to increment the version, I need to make sure to include this file in the zip or whatever. You know, I mean, and you don't want to be doing it manually from your computer, because then it's like, you know, I've seen instances where Godot exports have bugged out a little bit because like the import directory or the Godot directory with the cached files is like wrong or something. So you don't want to be in a situation where like you worked on something, you're tired, you do an export, you throw it up on Steam, and you find out like something broke because like you did something wrong in the process, or like something was cached when it shouldn't have been, right? So if you set up a build pipeline and you make all of your release steps part of that pipeline, then you don't have to worry about it, right? You kick off a new build process and it does it right every single time, or at least, you know, far more often than you're going to do it right. And you don't have to worry about caching issues because you're cloning the repository from scratch every time, unless you're like using cached artifacts or whatever, which I don't do. I just, like, every time my runner runs, it like grabs the entire repo from scratch. There's nothing cached at all. It downloads Godot, it downloads the release templates, it publishes the game, uploads it to Steam. So yeah, maybe that's my main tip, is like, it's more of a process thing, like I said, but you know, I've been in situations where it's like, especially like game jams, right? Where it's like, oh, I found a bug in my game jam entry, I'm just gonna fix that and re-export the game and re-upload it, and then you found out that the uploaded version is broken, and it's like, uh-oh, because you forgot to do something during the release like step process or whatever. Anyway, I don't know if that's helpful, but I would recommend that. It gives you some peace of mind when you know that your build is going to be happening the exact same way every single time. Okay, back to the Skeleton Commander. So the thing that I'm having trouble with here with this ability language is that some abilities do damage that scales. So like I might say deal 5 damage per minion card. And if you've got 3 minion items on the board, then it's going to do 15 damage all at once, right? But this ability is different. This ability is going to do 2 true damage, and it's going to repeat. It's going to do 2 true damage as a single ability execution for each allied undead item that you have, right? So it's not like a sum total, you know, one ability with like the proper amount of damage. It's going to do 2 damage for each time, equal to the number of undead items that there are on the board. And so I don't really know how to word that. So like here with the Wheel of Misfortune, this is deal X amount of damage, you know, 5 times or whatever, right? But this is variable. This is based on how many undead items you have. So I don't know what to say here. Super helpful. Thank you. You're welcome. You are welcome. I really don't know what to do here. Deal. Now, see, I may actually end up needing to do this separately anyway. So we get the damage scalar. We say current true damage is equal to scalar base true damage tier. And then we do deal 0, description keywords, true damage. And then it would be something like see, this is like sloppy, like an amount of times equal to the number of undead items. Does that make sense? What's wrong with the current wording? The problem is I'm trying to unify this, right? So like the Wheel of Misfortune, this ability repeater, it says it deals X damage 5 times, right? But I don't want to use different language here necessarily, unless I just have like 2 categories of repeat. Like I have the repeat that's like sort of like defined numerically up front, and then I have the repeat that's variable. The other problem with this wording is that it implies that this true damage is going to be dealt at least once, which I may do. I mean, also this second statement I'm realizing sort of implies recursion, which I guess is fine. But yeah, I just don't know. I just want to come up with an elegant way of like getting this point across. Maybe I could just do like for each description keywords true damage. No, description keywords. True damage. Deal 0. No, for each undead item. Deal 0. Yeah, something like that. And then this will do query target provider get value +1, so it does that guaranteed execution. Yeah, something like that. I don't know. I guess I don't need to spend a whole lot of time on it. My friend, who is the composer for this game, is currently working on a new track. And it's sounding really cool. I can't wait to... I'll probably save it as a secret for the next playtest. But sounds really cool. I think it depends on how often this type of ability will exist on items. I could easily see having a keyword like replay. Deal 1 damage, replay 5, or deal 5 true damage, replay for each allied undead item. Then just have these abilities always execute at least once. Yeah, that's a good idea. I could probably do something like that. Okay, so this should do 2 true damage twice. All right, let's see. It did it. 2 true damage. Okay. All right, we'll just call that good for now. Hello, Helkios Games. Welcome. Good to see you again. All right, giant mushroom. Turn cooldown override. This one becomes innate. Good to be here, and right at the big mushroom part too, yeah. Everyone loves the big mushroom. I like the big mushroom. There's something just so fun about mushrooms. I don't know what it is. Awards a Fungus Giganticus Spore item after combat victory. Sets the cooldown of allied items below equal. So that's innate now. Okay. That one was easy. Reach of the Apostate. This one should be easy as well. Just a matter of adding that is innate flag. I don't know what I'm doing. Add item grasping hands. So I also I spent a lot of time fixing the ordering of these abilities now. So I think if you recall a couple of streams ago, I was working on getting all these like turn cooldown abilities to work in a proper order. So I have these update phases now for my abilities. And these update phases determine, like, these are buckets for when, like, certain abilities can be updated. So basically the way that it works is that I go to my board manager here. So in here, this method is responsible for updating all the passive abilities. And the passive abilities then go through this. So it resets all of the passive modifiers. And then what it does is it goes through all the phases here. So the phases are basically any value in that enum, which is not end, because end is like the absolute final abilities. So for each phase, it iterates over all the cards and it executes the non-combat abilities for that phase. And then it executes, there's 3 different categories of abilities. So there's the natural abilities, the contextual abilities, and the projected abilities. Those all have to be different for reasons. But it updates only the abilities in that phase. And so I can very easily control now when certain abilities have their things changed. And so what that means is that this grasping hands, which is reach of the apostate here, this will only set the cooldown of items above after any other turn cooldown reduction has been applied to it. So this happens at the end of those phase updates. So that means that I could put other, turn cooldown modification things here, and that would take effect. But what that also means, though, is that would override any other turn cooldown effects that I have. So if I try to change the turn cooldown of this item here, but then the reach of the apostate overrides that, it should be an override, right? Because this says it sets the cooldown of allied items above equal to this item's cooldown. And then this is also ordered, right? So this one does the opposite. It sets the cooldown below, and this one sets the cooldown above. So if I take the giant mushroom and I put it here, that's going to execute first. It will set this one to 7.1 seconds, which is the giant mushroom's cooldown. And then that 7.1 seconds will be propagated back upward. And this all follows a very specific ordering, which I've mentioned before. So I could do stuff like this where, I modify this one's cooldown, project that down to reach the apostate, and then that can be reprojected back up. And so now this mausoleum key has a 7.1 second cooldown, which is ultimately coming from this giant mushroom, right? So anyway, it just works a lot nicer now. Should be a lot easier to, first of all, it should be way more predictable and way more stable, because there were some issues with that before. But now this is like a real tool that you can use, right? Like you could chain these these turn cooldown. I keep saying projection, but they're like setting. These turn cooldown overrides. You could chain a bunch of these together and just modify the first item in the chain, and then just propagate the whole board with that cooldown, which I think is pretty neat. But anyway. Okay. I kind of want to do this new reagent idea now. Let's make a reagent that oh goodness, I can't type. I'm going to make a reagent that can take an innate ability off of something, and you can put it on another thing. So it still retains its innate property, meaning that it can't be transferred through alchemy normally. It's just you're basically taking it permanently from one card, from one item, off of there and onto another item. So I need some ideas for that, though. What would be a good reagent theme for that? This is always the hardest part, too. What should I do about this? I don't know. I don't have any good theme ideas for this. Trying to think of a way to say soul scalpel without saying it. I was thinking some kind of scalpel too, but I don't know. I don't know if that's like thematically good for stripping innate abilities. Hmm. I could just make it some kind of like plant again or something. Flytrap could be fun. You mean like a plant? I was thinking, this idea just came into my head, like a chimera quill? Is that what they're called? Like porcupine quills? Did I get that right? Porcupine quill? I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah. Like chimera quill or something? Or, this is supposed to be the fun part of game development. I can't think of anything. We're gonna sit here for the next 4 hours and think of something to draw. We could always go with a mushroom. That works too. Shoot, I don't know what to do. I was thinking like a 1x3 reagent would be kind of fun. I don't know. You know what I might do? Maybe I'll just write the logic for it and I'll come up with a theme later. The unfortunate thing is I need, well, maybe I don't. I do need like a placeholder item for it, so I don't know, let's just do 2x2. Let's just do reagent placeholder. It's going to be a pain in the rear to like rename everything, but that's okay. What I'm mostly interested in is doing the actual like alchemy absorb ability, because I'm gonna have to update this. This is basically just going to be the giant mushroom spore. Maybe I'll just copy this then. Copy this. Alchemy absorb ability. I don't think it's just going to work out of the box though, if I'm not mistaken. Card definition resource ID, that's fine. Board inventory component query options directions right adjacent. Let's just do adjacent. I can specify an ability filter here. Let's do, I'm going to split this out a little bit. Okay, so we've got the new alchemy absorb ability. That's argument 1. This is argument 2. Now we're going to do ability.isInnate. I gotta return. Actually, I could just inline this. Excuse me? Oh, okay. I'm very curious. Oh, this needs to remove from source as well. Yes. So I need to do remove from source true. Oh, you know what? Yeah, I'll probably just do this. I should probably actually just be copying this mostly from the chisel here. Okay, absorb and remove a random innate ability. Description keywords dot innate ability from one adjacent item. We configure that query there. Is that just going to work? What about a mineral asset? Aqua Fortis is apparently the old-timey name for it. Yeah, I could do that. The problem with like I mean, this is kind of a problem I have. Is like doing the old school reagents. It's like, it's kind of hard to just like draw different liquids. You know what I mean? Like I have to get creative with, like, unless I just put things in bottles, which I've done several times. So I've got like mystery juice. Oops. Ah. And then I've got like add item alkahest. And I've also got like add item like unholy water. Like I have a lot of things that are in bottles, which is fine. I just have to make sure to like design each bottle differently so it's, you know, so they have like different appearances, different silhouettes. But that's the hard thing with like using those old-timey things is like I feel like the only way to draw them is to like put them in a bottle. But that's probably just a lack of my own creativity. But if I add the reagent placeholder here, absorb and remove a random innate ability. Let's see if it works. So it did not work. It did not work. I figured as much. Let's build the translations first. Also, make that 2 by 2. So now I gotta go diving through the code to figure out. I just have like a blanket restriction on innate abilities being alchemized at all, and I think it's very likely the case that that's what's interfering with it. But this is why I wanted to do the script first. Number one, I don't have a theme idea for it, and number two, I think there is going to have to be some deeper code changes to make this happen. Oh, I didn't even mark this as a reagent. That would be a problem as well. That actually might be that might actually be the whole issue. Now that I'm thinking about it. Wow, did that just work? It removed the innate ability from... I was not expecting that to work at all. Wait a minute. How is it not absorbing innate abilities to begin with? Oh, I have a default filter here. Okay. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna actually elevate this here. We're gonna do private static read only func base composed ability. We're gonna call this default filter ability. We're gonna put the default filter up here. Oh, func pool. Here. Okay. So we'll check if we have an ability filter. If it's null, we'll fall back to the default filter. Then we'll invoke that filter for that ability, and then we'll add the eligible items. Okay. I might change this a little bit. Okay. So did that just work? So wait, can I put this on a different item now? Also, I should check that this is being saved correctly as well. Wow, look at that. Oh, this would actually be so strong. 3-second cooldown skeleton dragon, anyone? That's going to have to be... Okay, so let's do this as well. Let's go to the reagent placeholder. I mean, I don't know why I'm doing this exactly, but we're going to change the loot table weight way down to 1. We're going to make it really rare, and we'll make this legendary. I'm going to have to copy all these properties over to my actual proper reagent, but... So that's going to be an extremely rare reagent, but it should be fun. Like, it should be one of those things where you're like, I want this to be an item where you're like, no way, you know what I mean? Like, you get it and you're like, yes, and it's just like, you have the perfect innate ready to go and you have the perfect item to put it on. Might still be too powerful, but if it's the kind of reagent that you're only going to encounter like once every 5 runs, once every 10 runs, like, so for context, a weight of 1 is the smallest weight that I have in the entire game. I actually should do that. I should figure out how to sum up all the weights of my reagent items. Because then I could get like, what is the % chance from that? But I guess I could just kind of like estimate it right now. I'm actually kind of curious. So if I go to ally reagent, so, oh gosh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, let's just say there's 20 reagents. All of them have a default weight of 10. So that's 200. But there are 3 reagents here that have like a weight of 2. So we'll just call that what? Let's just call it 175 as the total weight. So this one, oh wait, minus that one. So we'll call it 265, I guess. Or 165. So 165. So a 1 in 165 chance of getting this. I guess that's still pretty good. I mean, there's going to be more reagents, but so for every, roughly speaking, for every 165 reagents you get, you'll get 1 of these. Of course, it'll have to be play tested and whatnot, and I'm going to be adding more reagents, so this is just going to become more and more rare the more reagents there are. But yeah. I can't believe that it worked. I thought I was going to have to do a lot more to get that to work, but I guess not. The last thing that I want to try, though, is I want to see if it works with the save file correctly. It should. I don't see any reason why it wouldn't work with the save file. But we just want to make sure that it's, you know, when in doubt, get the save file out, you know. Okay, so we do this. We grab this guy. While in the combat board, awards a fungus giganticus spore item after combat victory. Oh, I just realized I messed this up. Sorry, I have to do that all again. When generate test map is on, it ignores the save file, which makes sense. But I have to do that. Oh wait, maybe I don't have to do that again. Okay, so it's not, I'm glad I tested this. It's not saving the innate status of that ability. So this is actually just becoming a normal ability. Well, I'm glad I tested it. Yeah, that's just a normal ability now, which means that I could put this back on the fungus. Okay, so why would that not be saving as innate? Why do I have to save? So I already have a way of saving is innate. I don't know why I have to specifically save is innate in the save file. Because why do I need to do that? I don't understand. Oh, that's like an override. Right. So I think why I need to do this is because the boss soul this just looks at any ability, but then it converts the ability to innate. So that makes sense. So this would actually be more appropriately called is innate override. I'm actually just going to change this. I've already set up the save migration to work. Why didn't this work? Okay. Oops, I didn't mean to change that. Put that back. Okay.
So I'm choosing a random ability from the bosses and I'm converting that ability to innate, and then I have to save the fact that that ability was made innate because the default state of the ability is not innate. So the way, again, my save system works is that I have a ability provenance, and the ability provenance is basically just a way of defining where did the ability originally come from. So rather than trying to like serialize the abilities, which would be a nightmare, instead what I'm saying is like, well, all of the possible abilities in the game are defined ahead of time, and they all have a source, like they all have a place where they originally came from. So what I do is I just track that, right? So when you put an ability from one item onto another through alchemy, what it's essentially doing is it's saying like, this skeleton warrior has an ability on it that was originally this ability from, you know, the Pylean or whatever. It was originally this ability from the guillotine. And so when the save file loads, this ability provenance can be easily JSONified. It can be easily JSON stringified. So when it loads, what it does is it says, okay, if this item has an ability list saved in the save file, I'm going to go and read all of the ability provenance. And then what I can do is I can actually get to the ability based on that provenance from this card factory here, right? So create ability from provenance. And that basically takes the provenance model in, and depending on like what type of provenance it is, it knows where to find it. So when the provenance source is a card, meaning that this ability is defined originally on some card in the game, an item in the game, it just goes and creates that card, and then it finds the appropriate ability. And then I don't know why this is in here though. I don't know why that's in there, but I'll have to figure that out. Anyway, so it grabs that ability and reconstructs it. So the thing that I'm confused by is I shouldn't need to store the innate override if the ability was innate to begin with. So in this case, alchemy added. Create ability from provenance. First or default. Yeah, this should already be innate. Oh, you know what? Oh, I think it's just as simple as this. I'm setting it to innate based on this value, but I need to set it to innate only if innate override is true. Otherwise, it's just going to default to whatever its innate state is. Right, okay, so that makes sense. Okay, so that was just a minor issue. I don't know why this is here. I don't know why that's there. I'm gonna have to do some investigation. But anyway, hello, Ruffum Studios. I want to do this game dev streamer thing, but I'm not fond of showing my face. Any tips? You could go faceless. That's fine. Like when I first started streaming, I didn't have a camera. I just, it was like this. I was just completely faceless. Hello, everybody. My face is gone now. I don't think you need to have your face on the stream at all. I think the most important thing that if you're gonna try streaming, you do have to like fill the silence. I don't think many people are gonna stick around if you're not actively saying or doing something. So like even when I'm silent, I'm trying to make sure that I'm like at least like in the zone writing code or doing some art. But usually what I try to do to keep the streams somewhat entertaining is like when there's an interesting system in my game that would be fun to explain, I just do that. And like maybe everyone tuned out and no one cares how the save file works. But that's not really the point, right? The point is like I'm trying to make the stream engaging. I'm trying to make it so that for the people who are watching and for the people that are coming in new, because people are going to jump into this stream and they're going to say, it's 2 hours and 51 minutes into the stream. They're not going to have any context about what's happening at all. But if they come into a stream where I'm like actively explaining something, I think that's a little bit more engaging. So I think that's like the number one thing that you could do is like, well, the number one thing you have to do is get your audio working properly. People don't like to have audio that's like really grating. So it needs to feel very smooth, the proper volume and everything, no background noise, all that stuff. But the second most important thing is like, just try to be engaging, try to fill the silence, not with just like garbage, but like try to be useful and explaining what you're doing and why you're doing something and the problems that you're working through. That would be my advice to you, my unsolicited, well, I guess it wasn't unsolicited, I guess you asked for advice, but yeah. Hello, JK, welcome. Always working when you're streaming, but took today off. Very nice. Hope you're enjoying your day off. I considered using voice effects to make it interesting. Yeah, that, I don't know. That might work. It might not work. I'm just going to reset my save file here. Nope. I got to work on the characters too. I feel like the characters don't have strong enough identities yet. So I'm going to see if I can. I may just introduce the concept of like unique artifacts. Okay. Passive sets that. Okay. So I go, oh, let's load this back. This should remain innate. And then I have to check the boss souls as well. So that's still innate. Okay, good. Add item skeleton warrior. Okay, let's put these together. I should get an innate ability on the skeleton warrior. Perfect. And then if I close the game and reload the game again, I should load in with that innate ability. Perfect. Okay. Excellent. Okay, so anyway. Oh, I do want to test one more thing, which is that I want to... I just want to make sure that those boss souls that I get are still saving properly. Because I did make a change to this, a little bit of a change to the save logic, so I just want to make sure. I'd like to make a game like this, but real-time combat. I would say go for it. Okay. All right, so we're going to let that save. It should have saved. So we've got innate fire, innate armor, innate heal. Okay. So let's close the game. We'll go back in. Innate fire, yeah, okay, good. Now let's put it on an item. And I've got a bunch of innate abilities. Armor, heal, and fire. Okay. We can close that. We'll just make sure that that's still good. Awesome. Cool. So I'll have to think of a theme for this. We're gonna need a theme, so we'll just do art as well as flavor text. Okay. Voice effects won't make your stream interesting. What you have to say, or what you do on stream is what matters. I think that's right, but you know, I mean, thing about streaming is like there's so many different ways to do it. I mean, I watched a guy play Alchemortis the other day, and he's got like 50 different things on screen, and like the game is like just like a tiny part of the screen, and there's just all kinds of unrelated stuff happening. And I'm like, I just stepped into a world that that's not how I would watch a stream, but apparently there's a market for that. There's a viewership for that. So, you know, I think there's always room to do something interesting with streaming, but I think the safe route, the safe advice is like, yeah, have something interesting or entertaining to say. But anyway, that's going to be it for the stream today. Little 3-hour afternoon stream. So I hope you enjoyed. We got a lot done, and yeah, I'll just be continuing to work on getting all your feedback implemented, as well as adding new content and balancing the alchemy and all that stuff. But I think content is going to be like one of the main priorities now. I do have to rework the combat log, and what else? Finish up the controller support, all that kind of stuff. But in any case, it'll get done eventually. But you could try Alchemortis. The playtest is live right now, so join the playtest from the Steam page, which is linked below. I'd appreciate if you gave it a try, left me your feedback in the Discord. Besides that, have a good day, everybody, and I will see you back here tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern. Okay, bye-bye.